It's been a while since we've done a tier list together, and with the new Captain America movie coming out in a few weeks, I thought now would be a good time to rank the MCU up to this point. So, let me walk you through our tiers. We start at the top with absolute cinema, which should be self-explanatory. We have more good than bad, which is, as it sounds, movies that are more good than bad, but that can range from anything that is mostly good with just a few little nitpicks to movies that might be closer to a mediocre film that I just kind of prefer in my own personal preference. Mediocrity abound is where any movie goes where I feel like I can't say anything about it, positive or negative. More bad than good is just the reverse of this. And we have straight trash. So what I would like you to do is to comment down below what you think is going to end up in straight trash by the end of this, and anything that I haven't seen yet, which I think is only 2 things on this list, is just going to stay on the board. So let's get into it. We're going to start where, of course, the MCU started, with the original Iron Man, which I think is more bad than good. I think you can definitely tell that it's an older movie when you watch it now, but I think a lot of it still holds up really well. It's a very grounded movie, which I prefer in the MCU, despite the fact that these are all comic book characters. I still really like the original Iron Man, but it's definitely not, like the top tier of what the MCU can do. So I think it fits in right here. The Hulk, it's very few things in this movie, in my opinion, work. I think the guy that plays Thunderbolt Ross, very good. I think Edward Norton as Bruce Banner is very good. Other than that, there's like nothing worthwhile about this movie, so it's not quite straight trash, but it is definitely on the weaker side in the MCU. Iron Man 2, I think it's kind of a bad rap. I don't think it's one of the worst films in the MCU. It's obviously not one of its best either. It just really feels like a filler movie to me, so I think mediocrity is about as good as I can say that it is. The original Thor movie I don't like. I do like Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. I do like both of them with their performances. I think Anthony Hopkins as Odin is wasted. I think Idris Elba is wasted. I think even Natalie Portman is wasted in this film. So, star-studded cast. They do nothing with it. I don't like this movie. Captain America, the first Avenger, I think is also kind of just a mediocre film. I think the first half of the movie is great. The second half of the movie is kind of not great. I think it definitely falls off the longer it goes on, but the first half of the film is definitely really, really good. So I think it fits in mediocrity is where it belongs. The original Avengers, definitely more good than bad. I'd even say it's better than the original Iron Man. It feels like they actually know what they're doing now with this film. I think Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye is kind of the unsung hero of this movie. I think he's a huge part of why this movie works. I think Mark Ruffalo, the recasting of the Hulk, is very good. And of course Sam Jackson is very good in this, but the original Avengers, definitely more good than bad. We're going to have the first little controversy here with this list. I'm going to say Iron Man 3 belongs in this category as well. I understand why people don't like it, but the concept of Iron Man dealing with PTSD from the Battle of New York and having to, fight his way into the Mandarin compound without his suits, I really like a lot of those aspects. I understand, not the most perfectly executed concept, but I think conceptually it's a very good film and I enjoy watching it. So, of course, my opinion is the only one that matters for this list. You are free to disagree with me, but I like Iron Man 3, so I'm putting it there. Winter Soldier is absolute cinema. I don't think anyone can really argue with that. I think it's one of the best films in the MCU. I think it's the best film the Russo brothers have ever made. Um, this movie is generally incredible. I wish we had more spy thrillers in the MCU. I think there's definitely a market for that with a lot of the characters that they have. Um, and I wish they did more concepts like this. I think Sam Jackson is great in this. I think Scarlett Johansson is great in this. Chris Evans, I think this is his best performance in the MCU. Anthony Mackie as the Falcon is also really, really good. So Winter Soldier definitely deserves its spot at the top. I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 in More Bad Than Good. I think at times the pacing feels a little fast, and I think Ronan the Accuser as a villain is just not interesting. But everything outside of that is really, really good in this movie, so I can understand why someone may put it at the top of their list, but, that's just not me. But it's the weakest of the three Guardians movies in my mind, but it's still very, very solid. Age of Ultron, I am also going to put in this tier. I think this is some of the best character acting in the MCU. I really like the character moments between, Natasha and Banner, and Vision and Ultron, Cap and Steve. Thor doesn't really do much in this movie, but when does he ever? The introduction of Wanda Maximoff is really good. And the bits between Hawkeye and Quicksilver, like, this is just a really good character movie if you're able to move past the plot being kind of weak and Ultron not being used very well. But outside of that, I love a lot of the character moments in this movie, so it's hard for me to really put it down. But I know a lot of people think this is the weakest of the Avengers movies. I don't know that I quite agree with that, but we'll get to that later. The original Ant-Man, I think, is like the definition of a mediocre Marvel movie. There's really nothing interesting about this movie. It's completely forgettable in every way. So that's why it's right here in the middle. It is the epitome of a mediocre Marvel movie. It is everything that these two are and more. So Ant-Man, congratulations. Civil War, I think, is another one that is absolute cinema. I think takes like the best parts of Age of Ultron and the best parts of Winter Soldier and mixes them together and makes for an incredible movie. I do think, however, it's like just barely on that line of almost being too much. But I think if they just didn't spoil Black Panther and Spider-Man in the trailers, I don't think I would feel that way. I think I feel like and Vision was spoiled in the trailer, so if they didn't spoil all the new characters right away, I feel like those moments would feel a lot better in the movie. But that's just a tiny little nitpick that I have about it, so that's why Civil War is still absolute cinema. The original Doctor Strange I really like. I think this is one of the best introduction movies that we get after Phase 1. I think Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange is a really good choice. I think Doctor Strange should be used more going forward in the MCU, especially because they need like that bridge character to tie everything together, and they've like kind of used Wong for that, but I don't know if Wong has sort of like the saying power as Doctor Strange would have in those same roles. But a lot of people complain about the post-Endgame landscape in the MCU and how it just kind of falls apart, but some of that really wasn't Marvel's fault, of course, because it was very clear that like Spider-Man and Black Panther and Doctor Strange were probably going to be like the big three of the next few phases of Marvel. But of course, Chadwick, of course, tragically passed away, lost his battle to cancer, and Marvel wasn't able to secure a deal with Sony to keep using Tom Holland's Spider-Man until well after that. And of course, COVID-19 happened. So it was just like a really unfortunate series of events for Marvel after Endgame that unfolded that kind of derailed what I think they were going for. So it's hard for me to really hold that against them, when we can't go to that alternate reality where they got their way right away and they had their next big three. So, um, Phase 4 is what Phase 4 is, and we'll get to that soon. But I don't really hold it to that high of standards like other people might. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I think, goes right up here. In fact, I think I'd probably put it above Civil War. I think this is the movie that really kind of proves that James Gunn knows what he's doing. I love so much about this movie. I love the relationship between the original 5 Guardians, the introduction of Mantis, the development for Peter Quill, the death of Yondu. Like, there's just so much about this film that is truly, truly the best at what the MCU does. And like, these are characters that nobody cared about in the comics. These were like D-list characters. I mean, Iron Man was too, and I don't really hold comic accuracy is that important, but it's crazy that some of the best moments in Marvel come from these C and B and D-list characters that nobody cared about 20 years ago, and now they're mainstays. So that's very interesting. Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, is kind of mostly a mediocre film. It's an origin movie of sorts, but it's also not. I don't know. It's a way to get Spider-Man into Marvel, which is what they wanted. I don't know if they did it very well with this. Vulture is a very good villain, and I wish they used him more. I'm very hopeful that the nonsense they tried to pull, putting him into the Sonyverse, is just not, gonna happen. So, I think they will just completely retcon that, but, it is whatever. I think Marvel needs to get better at reusing its villains instead of just killing everybody off. So hopefully we see Vulture again. That'd be really nice, but, I think the villain is probably the best part of this movie. But yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming, mediocre. I think Ragnarok is also pretty mediocre. I know a lot of people like this movie, and I did too at first, but the more I watch it, the less I care for it. I think there are a lot of parts of this movie that just don't age very well. Cate Blanchett is incredible, but again, it's like, I think they just waste Anthony Hopkins as Odin. I honestly feel like they kind of waste Tom Hiddleston in this movie a little bit. I feel like, there could have been more there. I wish they didn't reveal Hulk in the in the trailer. I mean, it was kind of obvious that when this movie was announced, it was kind of obvious that Hulk would show up, but still, I wish they didn't reveal it. Black Panther, definitely around here, I'd say. The only reason for me that it's not in absolute cinema is like entirely technical, because the color grading in this movie sucks, and by God does the CGI suck. Oh my God, the CGI is terrible in this movie. It is probably the worst CGI in the entire MCU in my mind. It's just so grating to look at, and it completely destroys the immersion, especially the fight in the vibranium tunnel with the train. You know what I'm talking about, when they're in their suits and it just looks so unnatural and terrible, and it's so dark for no reason. And my God, it's like the last 30 minutes of the movie, the story is incredible, the plot is great, completely understand Killmonger and why he does what he does, but it's hard not to be distracted by how ugly the movie is in those last 30 minutes. It's bad. So that's why Black Panther doesn't quite make it into absolute cinema for me, because it really punches you in the mouth with how bad it looks. So that is Black Panther. Ant-Man and the Wasp is another one that's just like the definition of mediocrity. There's nothing interesting about this film whatsoever. I don't care about the quantum realm. I don't care about these characters. it's just a completely whatever movie, but it's not, horrible. I could see somebody liking it. I don't know that somebody is me, but it's not like either of these two movies where it's like, I hate everything about it. It's just uninteresting. So that's why it's in here. I think Captain Marvel is another one that, yeah, I think I'd put it under Actually, I'd put it under Ragnarok. In fact, I'd put this one under Ragnarok too. But Captain Marvel is just another movie where it's like they don't make me care about any of the characters, but it's not like offensively bad or anything. It's just mostly whatever. Um, it's like you get Nick Fury back and he's great. That's about it. Um, I think the writing is pretty. I like Brie Larson as an actress. I really liked her in Kong Skull Island, which came out like just before this movie. Um, and then I saw this movie, and I'm like, wait, is that the same actress? I don't know. It fits right in here. I think Infinity War. I think also. Yeah, I'm fine with putting it here. Actually, I really like Infinity War. I think they do a lot of great things in this movie. I think the build up is great. I like how they introduce, all the characters and tie them together, and bring 20 years of Marvel characters together. It's done really, really well, and I think this is probably the best of the Avengers movies, which leads me directly into the fact that you might hate me for what I'm about to say, and that is Avengers Endgame goes right here. This is not a good movie. Like, I don't. Okay. I need to speak my piece on this because this movie really bothers me. And it's weird that I've got to this point because I remember seeing it in theaters like 2 days after it came out. And I remember just being so hype. And, as a theater experience, one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. It was incredible. There were so many moments where everyone was cheering and, it got really loud, and that was awesome. But when you watch this movie on your own and you actually pay attention to the story and the plot, my god, is it bad. I don't like time travel as a plot device. I never have. I think it completely derails any character growth or, just anything you're trying to do if you just try to shoehorn in time travel. And I think the way they do it in this movie is just atrocious. Especially because they just contradict themselves all the time with the time travel. It doesn't feel like they know what they want the time travel to be or how it works. And I think the moment where Cap goes back in time at the very end of the film and then stays back in time, I think that was just a stupid decision that opens up way too many questions and way too many plot holes. So it's like, and there's also the other part where it's like, I don't think they should have destroyed the Infinity Stones in the first place. I feel like there was so much potential from a storytelling standpoint to just tell a better story in this movie. But, if you don't pay attention to the story and you only pay attention to the really cool nostalgia stuff and the character moments, like, Captain America getting Mjolnir and stuff like that, that's really awesome. But when you actually watch the movie for the plot, it sucks. So, I don't want to put it in straight trash just because there are a lot of really cool character moments. But it's really close to being in this category for me. Especially because Infinity War is just so good. Infinity War is so, so good that it feels like this is kind of a slap in the face to everything that they do in this. But, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'll get crucified for it, but it's fine. Spider-Man No Way Home, is that the one this is? Or is it? I can't remember. They all have home in them. I can't remember if this is No Way Home or whatever the other subtitle is, I don't remember. But this is the one with Mysterio, and it's in London, and or not London, but it's in Europe, most of it. And I think this is another one that honestly is just kind of mediocre. I think it's definitely worse than the first one. I think it's the worst of the three by far. Um, Mysterio just doesn't compel me. Nick Fury, I think, is kind of assassinated in this movie as a character. I like this plot. The plot in this movie. Honestly, I might move it down. The plot in this movie feels like an idiot plot where like it only works if you do the stupidest choices possible. Which I get that Spider-Man is supposed to be this young kid, and um, maybe that's something that he would do, but it's like you just spent the last two movies where he's like a student of one of the smartest guys in your universe. Like, I don't know. I definitely deserves to be in here because the more I think about this movie, the less I like about it. So, yeah. Spider-Man No Way Home, or whatever this one's called. I can't, because I know there's three different subtitles. They all have home in them, but it's been a while since I've actually seen the subtitle for any of them. So I think this is No Way Home, or maybe this is No Way Home. I don't know. But this one with Mysterio definitely goes here. The first TV show in the MCU, WandaVision, I think is definitely more bad than good. I think it kind of falls off towards the end, but like those first 3-4 episodes are really, really good. So I would definitely put that here. But yeah, I think that the ending of WandaVision kind of isn't the best ending in a Marvel show. I think if I watch this again, I'd probably put it lower, but since I've only seen it once, and it was when it came out, and I did enjoy a good chunk of it, I think it's fine being here. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, is like, I'd probably put it about there. Like, there are parts that I do like, and the parts that I do like are between Bucky Barnes, Sam Wilson, and Zemo. Those are the parts I like. I don't like the Flag Smashers. I don't like what's her name? The niece of Peggy Carter, Shannon, being the broker or whatever her name is. Don't like any of that. But it's there's give and take with this. There are parts I like, parts I dislike, but it's not like inoffensive, and it's not like spectacular. It's just kind of a whatever filler show. Loki season 1, I think, is here. Again, time travel is not my forte. It's not my favorite thing in the world. There are bits and pieces I like. Of course, Owen Wilson's incredible in this. Tom Hiddleston's incredible in this. The last episode of season 1, where they confront He Who Remains, incredible episode. Everything else, not so great, in my opinion. I do like the bit at the end where they're in the void, and Eliath is there, and the old Loki guy is really cool. President Loki is really cool. So there are bits that I liked about season 1, but most of season 1 I think was pretty bad. So that's why Loki is here. Black Widow, straight trash. This movie didn't need to exist. Like, just straight up, if they were gonna do a Black Widow movie, it should have been in phase 3, before Endgame. Specifically, it should have come before Endgame, because making this movie and releasing it after Endgame just felt like a slap in the face. This movie was bad. I like Florence Pugh. I like David Hopper, the guy from Stranger Things that plays the police officer. I like that guy as Red Guardian, and I'm excited to see him in Thunderbolts, but this movie didn't need to exist, like, at all. There was no need for this movie to even be a thing. I don't know why they made it. I think it was terrible in every way. Like, you could delete this film from the MCU and nothing would change. Shang-Chi, I think, is definitely, yeah, right about here. I think I like it being there. I think this kind of has the same issue as Black Panther, where it's like, it's a really good movie, and then at the end of the film, the CGI just knocks you right out of it. Because the CGI at the end of the film is really, really bad. But, the 90% of the movie up before that, very, very good. So if it didn't have those horrible, horrible CGI fights at the end, I would honestly probably put it up here. I don't know why it's taken so long to see Shang-Chi come back. I would love to see him back. But, we'll see where it goes, I guess. But, yeah, the CGI at the end of the movie is a real, real punch in the face. The Eternals. The Eternals, I think, is fine as a movie. Like, it's not very interesting to me, but it's not, like, horrible by any means. Like, there's some cool moments. The speedster bit is pretty cool. I like some of the fight scenes between the fake Superman guy and Angelina Jolie. I like that fight. I like the bits at the end where they're fighting the Eternal. The bit where the Eternal shows up, or not the Eternal, the Celestial shows up and plucks the green one off of Earth and has a conversation. That part I really like. But, it's such a mediocre movie, I don't even remember any of their names. So, I think it's fine, like, here. Hawkeye, I really liked Hawkeye. Part of that could be my bias because I'm a huge Haley Steinfeld fan, and I have been for a very long time. I think she's a very good actor, very underrated as an actor. And I like her a lot as Kate Bishop. I like Jeremy Renner a lot as Hawkeye. I think this is one of the better MCU shows for sure, and I'm glad it's getting a season 2 sometime next year. So, the third Spider-Man film with Doctor Strange and all the other Spider-Man and Spider-Man villains, I think, is one that goes right up here in the more bad than good category. I think it does feel a little bit rushed at the end, and I wish they had brought the other Spider-Man in sooner. Because it like their roles in the film feel kind of wasted when they're just brought in for the last 15 minutes. Like, I feel like they could have brought, like, Tobey Maguire in early on as, like, a mentor figure to Peter, and then they could have brought Andrew Garfield in towards the later half of the movie. That's probably how I would have done it, but, it's fine. But, of course, the villains are really, like, the strong suit of this movie. I mean, of course they are, because it's Willem Dafoe and Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina, and Sandman is also there, right? But yeah, the villains are definitely the strongest part of that film. Doctor Strange is there for a little bit too. That's really cool. More Doctor Strange is always nice, but that is where I would probably put that film. This is another one that I think is probably going to be a bit controversial, and that is Multiverse of Madness. I think I would put right about here. For, like, the exact opposite reason of Black Panther, where it's like, I think the plot kind of falls apart, right? I think turning the Scarlet Witch into a villain, I understand the choice, but it's also like, it doesn't feel like it's deserved. It feels like they really rushed that, because they scrapped the original script where it was supposed to be Nightmare, and they go into the Nightmare universe and, whatever. But turning Scarlet Witch into a villain with the Darkhold, like, I understand the concept, but it's just, I don't know, it kind of falls apart at the end. But I think this is one of the, like, visually, I think this is one of the best projects Marvel has ever had. The visuals in this movie are truly, truly stunning. Like, a lot of the direction from Sam Raimi, beautiful stuff. It's so good. Um, and I'm trying to remember what the oh yeah, it was Thor: Love and Thunder that came out um, over this same year, and it really made me wish that Sam Raimi was the director on Thor: Love and Thunder, because Thor: Love and Thunder adapts one of my favorite comics of all time, which is Jason Aaron's Thor run. And we may as well get to it right now. This is another movie that belongs in the straight trash tier. This movie sucks. And I know I said earlier that I don't want comic accuracy to be a huge reason why I don't like a movie, but that and more is why I don't like Love and Thunder. It's another movie where they completely waste Natalie Portman. I don't like what they do with Thor in this movie. I mean, that comes directly from what they do to Thor in Endgame, and they just carry it over here. Don't like any of that. I don't like that they waste Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. I feel like could have been incredible. Completely wasted. This movie didn't need to be made. Like, if it's in this category, if it's in straight trash, I think the biggest takeaway is that this movie didn't need to be made. If it's in there, so yeah, Love and Thunder. Like, if it was directed by Sam Raimi, and written by literally anybody else, I feel like it would have been really, really good, because the God Butcher storyline in the comics is supposed to be scary as hell, because all these gods are dying and Thor needs to find out why. I wish they would have done God Bomb and some of these other bits, but my God, thinking about this movie just makes me angry. Honestly, I don't like this movie. So the Groot specials I have not watched. Just a collection of shorts with Baby Groot. Didn't feel like I needed to watch it, so I haven't. Wakanda Forever, I think, goes right between these two. I think is a good spot for it. I think it's a massive shame that Angela Bassett did not win the Oscar for this movie, because she is far and away the star of this movie. And I love Angela Bassett. I will watch anything that she's in. There's a new thing coming out on Netflix, or maybe it's already out on Netflix, that has Angela Bassett in it that I've been waiting for. I need to go see if it's actually out now, because I don't use Netflix very much, but I will watch Angela Bassett in anything that she's in, and this was an incredible performance by her. Namor is a very compelling villain. I'm very interested in Namor to see what they do with him in the future, if anything. He has a huge role in Secret Wars in the comics, so we'll see if he has anything to do with that in the movie. But Wakanda Forever, I think, is right there. The Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, I would put probably about here. It's funny. It's a good comedy. It's nothing super important to the MCU, but it's pretty funny. Quantum Mania easily goes right here. This is the worst film in the MCU, in my opinion. Bar none, this is the worst film in the MCU. Everything about this, so it's more of just the Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it's like, I don't care about the quantum realm. The quantum realm doesn't mean anything, and Kang as a villain, I think, is wasted. Like, Kang is kind of a C-list villain in the comics anyway. They don't use Kang for anything anymore. Like, he was kind of important in the Earth's Mightiest Heroes show. That's probably the biggest importance he's ever had in anything in Marvel. He's just kind of a throwaway villain, and I've never cared for Kang. I think what they did with him in Loki is way more interesting than what they did with this, and it felt rushed, just as a storyline as a whole with Kang, and I think a lot of that came down to, everything kind of going wrong for Marvel after Endgame, as I mentioned earlier, with COVID-19 and Chadwick passing and not getting the deal done with Spider-Man. So it feels like they just kind of rushed Kang to the forefront to have a villain. But I think it should have been Doctor Doom from the get-go. I just want to say that right now. Doctor Doom should have been the next big thing after Thanos, but oh well. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, definitely. It depends on the day, I think, but these are my top two in the MCU by far, Guardians 3 and Captain America 2. And honestly, I'd probably put Guardians 3, like right now as I'm thinking about it, I'd probably put Guardians 3 as my number one film in the MCU. This is an incredible send-off for the Guardians. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't seen this movie, but it's been out for a while now, and you need to go see this if you haven't. I mean, my God, this movie is incredible. One of the best villains in the MCU. The acting is so well done. Even though there are bits and pieces where I don't like that Endgame brought Gamora back. I think Gamora should have stayed dead, and this movie would have been even better. But the way that they handle it in the movie is still done pretty well. So Guardians 3, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie. Love that movie. Secret Invasion, I'd put it above Quantum Mania for sure, but Secret Invasion needs to be in straight trash. Secret Invasion in the comics wasn't that good either. Like, just as a comic run, it's not interesting. It's not done very well. But my God, as a TV show, I know earlier when I was talking about Winter Soldier, I said we need more spy thrillers in the MCU. I completely forgot that's what this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be a spy thriller. It's so poorly handled that I completely forgot that this is supposed to be exactly that. This is another show or another project where, like, thinking about it just makes me angry because it's so bad. So we're going to move on now so that I don't anger myself. But this movie sucked. Or not movie, but you know what I mean. This is just straight up garbage. Loki Season 2, absolute cinema. It's really wild how different these two seasons are between Loki Season 1 and Loki Season 2. But yeah, Loki Season 2 is really, really good. I don't think I'd put it above Endgame or Civil War, any of the movies. But that final episode of Loki Season 2 is just so good. It is incredible. I rewatched it a couple times, just that episode alone, just skipping straight to it. My God, it's good. I hope they do more with the character of Loki. I'll have to wait and see. I'm just now noticing this list doesn't have Moon Knight. I would have put Moon Knight in the mediocre category if it was here, but oh well. The Marvels, I would probably put in mediocre as well. I'd definitely put it above the original Captain Marvel. It's definitely better than that, but it's not, it's not my cup of tea really, but it's, there's nothing bad about it, I would say, but it does fit right in here. And then Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, is about here. I think this movie, more than anything, is like a fan service thing. Plot wise, if you really think about it, it's nothing special. The comedy's really good. Hugh Jackman is incredible. But yeah, it's definitely not up here like a few people say it is. I know when it came out, everyone was saying like, "Oh, this is the savior of the MCU." I don't believe that myself. But it's definitely not, a bad movie by any means. It's enjoyable for what it is. So I would definitely say this is a good ranking for it. And then Agatha All Along is the newest project on this list, and I just haven't seen it because I haven't gotten around to it. So I don't know where I would put it, but I don't think it's that important to the greater storytelling of the MCU. Maybe it is, I don't know. I haven't watched it, but that is right here. I'm also noticing they don't have Werewolf by Night on here, which I would have put in more good than bad. But yeah, that is the definitive rankings of the MCU, and those are my thoughts on it. And I thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope to speak with you all again soon, and goodbye for now.